All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another cigar, coffee and cigars live stream here for the Thursday night hang. It's Thursday, January 16th. We're back in, and it's kind of cold here in the garage. It's snowing outside, so if you're outside in this weather and you are having a cigar and libations, man, I am terribly, terribly impressed. So what's going on? How's it going? Who's out there? Let me know what you're doing. What are you doing? Are you smoking? Are you at home in a place where it's warm? It is not warm here. I've got the heater on here right next to me. And so that means that my right side, this side is pretty hot. This side is cold. So how's it going? How's your week been? Everything's been good. My week's been pretty good. So today we got a really important, yeah, I think important cigar to try today. One that has kind of special meaning for me personally. But before we get into that, we're going to do some coffee here. Mom, how are you, man? Good to see you. Hope your day was good. Mom's going to find this a little bit repetitive because we're going to use the coffee that I ground this morning that I didn't use for this morning's live stream because we had a whole different way of. One of our other viewers, Dev, was like, "Hey, you should try this brew method from Tetsu Kasuya." So we gave it a try, and it was good. It was good. It was solid. I'm kind of skeptical of things like that, but all right, it was pretty solid. So we're gonna do something like that today. We're gonna kind of share with you this brew method. Basically, you're using 20 grams of coffee in a what we call the Hario switch, and the Hario switch is this type of balcony cigar. Good lord, man, nice, nice. Is this type of brewer that is what's called full. So it's a conical brew filter, but you put a filter inside, and it has this valve here at the bottom, so that you can close the valve, and you can, like we did last week with the Bonavita, you can fill it and let it steep completely, or you can open the valve and let it flow. So if you leave the valve open, it flows like a regular pour over. And this method starts off by flowing about 120 milliliters of water as though it was uh, normal, whatever you call it, normal pour over. And then you close the valve, add, and I still don't clear on this. They're telling me 280 grams, but I think it's 280 total because it doesn't make sense to add 280 grams to 120 grams, so now you're at 400 grams with 400 milliliters of water with 20 grams of coffee. That seems that'll be a little bit light, right? Rusty says, "Did you just say Tetsukusuya? You know what's going on with him? I heard he's been sick here in the U.S. In the U.S. or IS? I don't. Oh no, I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that. That's terrible. That's terrible. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about him, man." Tony, what's going on, Tony? Good to see you. Devin's calling in from Florida. Craig is here. No cigar for me tonight. Too cold, man. It is cold. But you know what? It's like 20s. I don't know how cold it is there, but it's 20 something, and George is outside. I'm like, dude, that's some hardcore stuff, man. That's some hardcore stuff. All right, we're gonna get our water rolling, and we're gonna see what happened. Craig, I got your grinder right over there. I'm gonna put it in the mail tomorrow. You kind of caught me by surprise when I got the message about the uh the order, and I was like, oh, there's coffee with that too. That, to be honest with you, the coffee actually complicates things a little bit more, only because, like, the grinder came in its own shipping box, so now I have to kind of like jerry rig around it. Not a big deal, but I'm just like, oh, darn it. Oh, close that valve. Craig says that Tetsu posted an update on IG a couple of days ago. They don't have. Wow, he's here in the United States and got ill. Where is he in the United States? Like, what? How? Gosh, that's terrible. That's really terrible. So Tetsu Kasuya, for those who may not be familiar with them, Tetsu is the 2023, 23, 21 World Brewers Cup champion. Really great guy from Japan. And Huh. That's terrible, man. That's terrible. I don't know if Tetsu would make it this difficult if he was explaining it. But whatever website I was reading earlier today was kind of like it wasn't very clear on the proper procedure. All right, let's put this up here. We're going to start to brew our water. All right, water is brewing. Oh, he's also the 2015 Japan. Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. You guys are co-national champions in 2015. That's excellent. That's excellent. Yeah, the difficult part about this kind of like weather is that, I'm starting to feel a little bit too warm here, but very cold here. George, I don't know how you're doing outside. Do you have a fire or heater or something like that? Oh no, you're just bundled up, right? You just layered on and just like Grizzly Adams that stuff. Yeah, I got it. Yeah. And Devin says, wasn't he also the Japan bracelet champion? Maybe. Like, how ill is he? Like, is it really, really bad? Does he look really bad? Let me see if I can pull up on his Instagram and see. Devin says that maybe it's the new pneumonia virus going around. Eat your sauerkraut. I mean, gosh, there seems to be a lot of new pandemics coming in. Oh, World Brewers Cup 2016 championship. Oh, good Lord. Oh, he's in Japan. Okay, so currently Castillo is undergoing further examination in Japan due to a numbness in his left side and ocular motor nerve palsy, initially a strong headache. Wow. So maybe they're saying that maybe it's like something from checking emails because evidently he's got some strain on his eyes. Wow, that's crazy. Oh yeah, there Craig got that one. Man. Wow. Rusty said there's something posted on YouTube, but it was in Japanese and no CC. Oh, got you. All right, so we're getting here to the boiling point. So I've got the coffee. Oh no, you know what I forgot? I forgot my mug. Ooh, it's really burning. Look at that. Look at that. It's really going. Okay, so now we're going to turn that water off, the heat off. Put that to the side because we need it to cool down a little bit. We don't want to be too boiling. We'll be about 200 degrees. Got the coffee in here. I pour it in. Gonna make sure that the valve is open. Oh, he got sick while he was in the USA. Good Lord. I mean, yeah, we have some problems here. we have some viruses. So there it is, like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to put that onto our mug. Let me tilt this down a little bit so you can see. Here, so we're going to pour about 60 milliliters of water into. Now it's pretty cold here, so I'm presuming that this thin little anodized aluminum pot is bleeding off heat like a mad dog. So we're gonna brew. We're gonna do about 60 grams for like the 30 seconds, then another 30 seconds, 60 grams, and then we're gonna add cold water to this to drop the temperature down to about 160 degrees, more or less. And then we're going to brew. So here we go. We're gonna add the water in here. We're gonna let just kind of saturate it up a little bit. Okay, that's probably good. And now we're just gonna let that drip through. So the whole thing is that it's supposed to drip through. And then we're gonna drip through again. Okay, good. And then now we're gonna take this, and it's still got a lot of water in there. So we're gonna take this cold water. This is cold. This is like whatever the room temperature in here water. And we're gonna dive that temperature down, maybe a little bit more. And that should maybe give us about 160 degrees. Right? So there, that's done. Now we're gonna close the valve. Right? And now we're gonna immerse this sucker in here. Like that. And then we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait. We started maybe about a minute ago. So we're gonna go for a couple minutes, about 3 minutes total, and see if we can make this some coffee. And I gotta say, when I tried it this morning, it was a little, I mucked it up a little bit, but I gotta say it did increase the sweetness of the coffee. I was pretty surprised at how well it actually did. And one of the things too, right now, because it is so cold, the heat is just bleeding off of this thing. So we're talking about 120 milliliters, and they're supposed to add another 180. So that's 300 milliliters total. So it should be about 2 ounces, about 10 ounces. It should be about 2 ounces smaller than than the normal capacity of this cup. So it should be a little bit less when we're done. And then if it's not, we can balance it out a little bit. I'm sure if we add a little bit more water, should be all right. So what this coffee is, this is actually a coffee called the, oh wait, we should valve it now. So hit that button, and as you can see, it starts to flow down. This is the what we call the Phoenix Felice, the Happy Phoenix, and basically we're using the Phoenix from Teeling whiskey, the Irish whiskey. So it's kind of a whiskey infused coffee that we make, and we do it normally for every St. Patrick's Day. All right, that should be it. That should be it. Amiel says, Viva Cuba. Good morning, good evening. Good evening to you, my friend. How are you? All right, so here we are. Okay, we look here. You can see that I'm going to close the valve. I don't want it dripping all over my bench. As you can see here, the the liquid line is below this line here, which means that we are about 10 ounces. So it looks like we poured pretty close to the ideal amount of coffee that we're supposed to pour. We're going to cover that up and let that do its thing. Steven's with us. What's going on, Steven, man? How are you? How are things out there in Phoenix? We got crew from Phoenix, from Ottawa, from New York and New Jersey, all the way down to Florida. Man, beautiful, beautiful. Great to see all of you guys. Great to see you. All right, let's have a taste of this. Maybe two. My heater's tank is very low. I'm expecting it to die tonight. Mm, you know, I think this morning was better. A little more bitterness than sweetness in this one, comparatively to the one this morning. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Will it die quickly? I want it to, if it's going to die, I want it to die before we light up our cigar so I don't have to. There it goes. Done. There it is. There's our little heater is out. But I've got I'm prepared. I gotta say, it's been cold this winter, so I've been refilling these tanks like mad dogs. I wish there was some kind of like quick release connection. But I got the next tank right here, ready to go. Come on. The difficult part is threading these back in sometimes. Like today, I'm having a tough time doing it. Other times I can do it fairly simply, fairly quickly. Okay. All right, we're back in business. All right, we're back. We're back. George Shem says January has been cold, and next week in Maryland looks brutal. High of 18, 20 lows, 5 to 10 degrees. Craig calls that in autumn in Canada, I suppose. I think he does. I think he does. He calls us. He probably mocks us with our sissiness regarding. I shouldn't say that, should I? It's not. It's modern times. My nephew gets upset when I say things like that. He's like, "You shouldn't be talking like that. That's not nice." All right, that is not. All right, so today, like I said, tonight's cigar is one that's kind of special to me, right? Because it's a cigar called by a company called Aganorsa Leaf. Aganorsa Leaf is a is a company owned by a guy named Eduardo Fernandez, and he started off quite a few years ago by growing a lot of tobacco, and started making cigars for other people, and making his own line of cigars, and they've kind of changed over the years. But this particular one, called the Arsenio, is actually named after their old master blender, Arsenio Ramos. And Senor Ramos was someone that I knew personally. And like, I first went to visit the factory, the Valle de Tabacos in Esteli in 2014. 2014, about 11, almost 11 years ago now. I was there with some friends, and we were there with Dion from Illusione, because Dion has his cigars made at Aganorsa, and we got to meet Paul Palmer. So I got to know Paul Palmer from who was running operations there, and we were hanging out with Arsenio, and Arsenio at the time was like 80 years old, 79 or 80, and he's a great guy, just a really wonderful. And if you look at today's thumbnail, that's him from 2014. I mean, it was one of the great times that I've had in cigars, where at the factory, the Tabsa factory. So while they call it Valle de Tabacos, it's actually called Tabsa. the abbreviation. And there's the rolling floor, and then there's a side room that they're basically their taste room. This little room, this not little room, but it's maybe like 14 by 10 or maybe 15 by 10, 20 by 10, something like that, with a big conference table. And you just sit down, and they're like, they've got all the little, I don't know if they're called burritos, but basically, they had a whole bunch of these cigars, these little rollings of the different tobaccos that were they were testing out that day. And so Arsenio's like, oh, have tried this and try this and try that. And we got along. It was interesting. Him and I got along really well. Like after that time, we were hanging out at the factory, and then we went out to dinner for the couple nights that we were there. And but every time I would see him, whether I was in Nicaragua or if I was at the show and he was there, he was always like, always eager to come and talk and like hang out a little bit with me. And I was always kind of surprised that he wanted to talk to me. And especially since my Spanish is terrible, like it's really rough. But of course, he's perfect Spanish. He's from the Pinar del Rio in Cuba, and but he didn't really speak much English or much at all. And so it was always kind of interesting to me that he always wanted to hang out. But really, really an amazing man. He actually worked in tobacco most of his life in Pinar del Rio, and he ended up becoming the head of production or head of processing of tobacco for Cubatabaco for most of his life, for his entire career. He was with Cubatabaco, and when he finally was getting to retirement age, somehow he met Eduardo Fernandez, and Eduardo was like, why don't you come work for me at Aganorsa in Nicaragua? And he did. He came out. I guess we go back and forth because when he finally passed away in 2018, in September 2018, he was at home in Pinar del Rio. So yeah, so it's so this cigar is the cigar that he made for himself, and he actually gave us a bunch of cigars when we were there. Maybe I've had this cigar before, but I was at the cigar shop today, looking around, seeing like what am I going to use for today's show, and I saw this cigar, and I didn't even know it was released, and I was like, oh man! So I had to look it up a little bit to find out what it was all about. But basically, this cigar was his personal blend. I'm sure of course, it's not. This is the blend of cigar, the blend that he would have them make for him. It's going to be different than what it was in 2018 because it's been many, many years and different crops of tobacco have come and gone. So here in Maryland, we have an OTP of 6%. Other tobacco products, a levy, a tax, a tariff, which means that this cigar is a little more expensive than other places. So the base price of this cigar is $18.39. This is the Robusto size. It wasn't until I was reading about it later that I found out there's three sizes. There's Robusto, there's a Toro, and there's a Corona. Turns out that Arseno's favorite size, preferred size, was the Corona. Had I known that before when I was buying it, I would have bought the Corona. But we've got the Robusto here, and it should be kind of nice. Rusty says, George, same here in New Jersey. Temperature supposed to be below 20. Oh, gosh, too cold, too cold. It's no go for cigar. No go. It's too cold for them. Maybe we got to burn the fire. Tony's having a Dias de Gloria Brasil, Lonsdale Lancero size by AJ Fernandez, and a Diet Cherry Pepsi. Excellent. Yeah, if you let me know what you're smoking, we want to know. I want to know. So with sales tax and everything here, the total cost for this cigar was $19.50. Which, of course, in my world, I think that's kind of expensive. But in this case, I'm happy to pay for it. I'm happy to pay. And I have to give him. I'll give you my bias. My bias is, since I knew Arsenio personally, and I have a very positive relationship with him, personal relationship. There is a big part of me that would like to see this do very well. So you may have to temper what I may say tonight with that underlying desire. Okay. So I want to tell you my bias up front. All right, so we've got our cigar here. George is smoking the Olmec from Foundation. Very nice, very nice. Tony says the Socialist Republic of Maryland has a 21% tobacco tax, 15% in OTP, and 6% in sales tax. The OTP is, oh, I see. So how much is this normally? Or I should look it up. I can tell you. What am I saying? I'm saying how much is normally the MSRP? Let me look it up here. MSRP for this particular cigar is $15.99, $16. So we're paying like, wow, that's a lot. Two something extra. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. Maybe this new president will make it cheaper. He's supposed to make groceries cheaper, so hopefully he can make cigars cheaper. After all, proper Americans smoke cigars. So let's go into this Robusto 5.25 inches by 54, and let's get it out of this wrapper here. So we got the band. There's Arsenio here. Arsenio at a different point than when I knew him, but still looking good. Still looking good, and it's got this whole like lower band, this lower cover. I'm not sure what that. Oh, it's very pretty. Kind of like an Aganorsa paisley. It's taped on the back. Do I pull it off? It's kind of tight. Okay, it comes off. Kind of lighter in color, right? But look at the wrapper. Wow, that is pretty. The wrapper is very, very pretty. So we've got the wrapper is from Nicaragua. It's a Jalapa Corojo, so grown in the Jalapa region, which is a bit north from Esteli. And then the binder is from the Esteli Valley, which is a Criollo 98. And then the fillers are different blends of different tobaccos. They're all grown by Aganorsa, but they're from different regions of Nicaragua. That one's from Condega, and they're also from Jalapa as well. So it's mainly the growing regions, I think, if I remember correctly, in Nicaragua are Esteli, Jalapa, and Jalapa's in the north, and Condega. And yeah, interesting. So this evidently was released originally early this year in July. So it's pretty light in the wrapper. I'm going to say it's kind of lighter in the wrapper. I got a little bit of sniffles. Devin says, I'm smoking the AJ Fernandez stick from Privada's box this month with some hot water. Why, is it that cold down there? Come on now. Come on, hot water. I got a little bit of sniffles, Nessic. It's occluding. There is a little bit of a light spiciness to it. Maybe like a bready kind of bready with like a little spicy pimento peppers, maybe. Rusty said, should we take a poll? It's 8:29. What time will I finish smoking this? We're gonna smoke it all the way out, man. We're gonna smoke it all the way to 10. That's what I'm saying. I say 10 o'clock. All right, let's give it a cut here. We're gonna give it a cut. Oh, a little bit tight on that. A lot of resistance. There's our cut. There's our cap. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, that's a nice cut. All right. Some cold draw action. When we think of like modern cigars, especially Nicaraguan style cigars, we tend to think of something a little more bold, a little bit more spicy, a little more forward. So far, this is not that. This is a lot of subtlety, which makes sense because Arsenio is an old Cuban guy, used to old Cuban tobaccos that are more of a mellower blend compared to what we know in Nicaragua today. Like if we think of like brown label tatuajes, they're more like old school Monte Cristos. Havana. Ooh, a little bit of a spiciness in the mouth, on the saliva from the cold draw. All right, a little bit. Look at these guys. You got betting against me. 9:30, 9:15. We're gonna be done by 8:45 now. I only have one gas working. What's going on there? Let's turn this up. There we go, better. And it's actually snowing out here. I don't know if it's snowing where you guys are, but here where I live, it's snowing. Very light snow, but it's already accumulated. So I'm like, what's going on with that? Oh, we're starting to get some problems with combustion in this phaser. The smell of the smoke, nice and spicy. So cold draw kind of like mild, but the light is a little bit more spiciness. Mm. Mm. Let me get my cup here. All right, initial light, very nice. So let's say our cold draw, nice fragrance. I'm going to say 8.5. Very good plus. But I have to say this light, this spiciness, the complexity. Oh, it's coming out. It's starting out like gangbusters. Not like a black, there's pepper, but it's not black pepper. It's kind of like pimentos, esplet peppers. It's got a nice, like savory deepness, smokiness to it. Mm, wow. What suggested a lot of mildness in the fragrance cold draw is not the case once you light it. It's got some spice and complexity. Ooh, wow. I mean, I'll puff it and then exhale, and that sensation, that tingliness from the spice is kind of just lingering there. If this cigar performs like this throughout the entire cycle of the cigar, oh my gosh, we could be in for a very good time. Very good time. Maybe it's a shame they didn't release this cigar earlier, like 10 years ago. Oh yeah, this is quite good. This is quite enjoyable. All right, so how's your week been? My week's been all right. I was working on some things yesterday. If you happen to see on the main channel, I did a kind of this impromptu live stream. I was playing around with this. This is basically a piece of cedar that has been burned. It's something called yakisoba. Yakisoba is this Japanese technique of burning wood in order to create a coating that will be weatherproof, and it can be decorative. And so, as you can see, I have wire brushed this part here, but I have not wire brushed this part. And what you do is traditionally, you take three of them, right, and you twine them together, stack them up, and then light it on fire like a chimney. And then you get this thing. This is what they call crocodile skin. This is really heavy char. This is the lower part, so really heavy char. And then you do lighter char. Now, the way that I did with wrapping them together, three, is very traditional. That's how they do it. The old traditional guys do it that way. I wanted to give it a try. But you can take your wood and you can just torch it. Right. George says another indication that the wrapper color doesn't indicate taste and flavor. Most think light wrappers are mild. Yeah, I mean, and when I agree. I think that's a normal thing to think. But in this case, we had relatively mild. Well, except for that one. Remember, I said the saliva had this spice to it. That should have been a clue that it's not going to be what we're expecting. But everything about that, the aroma, the fragrance, very mild to me. But now, very nice, very nice, very nice. But the idea behind this thing is that you can make it decorative, and but they will use that for sheathing to put it on that, like instead of putting siding. That is their siding in traditional Japanese houses. They'll take, and it's usually using like hinoki cypress or cedar, which is why I happen to have some cedar. So I was like, well, I'm going to try that. And yeah, so I just wanted to see what it'd be like trying to play around with different types of finishes for woods, just to get more experience with it. Definitely good spice. Like it's not overwhelming. It's not, and here's the thing, it's spicy. Like it is spicy, 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 but it is not heavy. It's not overpowering. Like when you smoke like the Neanderthal, like it's heavy. Or for me, the Aquitaine, like for some reason I can go Cro-Magnon, no big deal. But Aquitaine, I'm like, oh man, this is kind of heavy. It's not like that. It's spice, but like it's not bearing down on you, right? Devin says, "Have you seen people run electricity through wood?" Oh yes, I have. That's quite interesting. They kind of get that tree look onto the grain of the wood. So it turns out, is it called shosugiban? So my understanding is that if you look at the kanji, the actual Japanese characters of yakisugi, the characters of yakisugi are the same, or can be interpreted or pronounced as shosugiban. But it's a theoretic, but technically it's supposed to be yakisugi. I think how people break it down now is yakisugi is now more of the really traditional way of doing it, like using the cypress and the cedar and burning it kind of in this manner, versus now more modern people that are doing it like shosugiban. That's where they just kind of torch it, right? And those guys they're using any kind of wood, right? They're using wood. I've seen guys using oak, all kinds of wood. So I think traditionally it should be yakisugi, but I think that modern times that most people understand yaki. I think now they understand yakisugi as the traditional way of doing it, and shosugiban as well. Actually, I was told also that in Japan, if you say shosugiban, they won't really understand what you mean. So it's only yakisugi there, which makes sense because yaki, like if you think of yakitori or yakisoba or anything yaki, yaki Y-A-K or Y-A-K-I means like basically to grill, to char, to cook, right? Whereas, so that means, yakisugi, and I think sugi is the wood, so cooking the wood. Where shosugiban, I'm not sure exactly what the breakdown is, but definitely a good question there. But this is only what I've been told. I don't really know because I don't speak that well. Even when I did speak a little bit, I couldn't really. It's just when you get into the kanji and the different kana, it's like it's so complicated. You're like, oh, God, how do you even learn that? How could I even learn this? But either way, I think it's a fascinating thing. So some people will take this and they'll burn it, and they'll do different grades. Like this is really the heavy char, right? This is heavy, heavy char. This is well, this was like that, but I scraped it off. But you could do any kind of like, you know, heaviness, light, medium, heavy, depending on your desires. And then some people will take the wood, they'll like this one. I haven't really removed a lot of it, right? But one of them, so what they'll do is they'll take it and then they'll remove the like here I scraped wire brushed. I did say wire brushing by the hands, and then some people will stain it or use like colored dyes to dye that, to change the color. And I was thinking, oh, I wonder if it'll work if you did it if you dyed it first. So I did one of these boards. I dyed one of the boards half blue, half yellow, and I no longer can tell which one it was. I think it was not the cracked one. It might have been this one. I should have done the sides so I would be able to tell. But I think that once you burn it, you're burning down through the part that's dye. You're burning through the dye, so that didn't work out very well. Brian, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Steve's here too. How's it going? But I think it's an interesting technique. And these guys will take, so you take the boards, you make them into big long triangles, and you put a little bit of paper at the bottom. And if the boards are really dry, once you torch the, if you watch the video, if you watch the live stream on the main channel, I'm lighting it, but it's still kind of tilted, right? So it's not really lighting well. It wasn't until I really got it more vertical that the fire really started to burn. And it was like, oh man, I don't know how these guys control it that well. Amiel says, I finished watching the Q&A from this morning. The tamping station is off to a good start, but we need to have a spot to hold the portafilter as you tap. Do you mean, okay, so when you say that, so what Amiel is talking about is that Amiel and I have been talking about these kind of tamping stations. I kind of came up with this quick idea last night while I was out here. Something like this, right? Where the tamper, I don't have a tamper here now. I do have this one, where you can put the tamper in like that, right? And then this is kind of a platform of some sort. Now, my friend gave me this to play around with. This is from a company called Genmus, and this is a little bit bigger, it's a little bit bulkier. So and this has this thing to put the portafilter in. Is this what we're talking about here, Omniel? You think this is what's important? This is needed? One thing that I'm kind of concerned about, it's not too bulky. Like this feels very bulky. Oh, exactly. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to work out some ideas for it. And what do we have? And some of the materials I was thinking about. So I've got like this light hard maple with some purple heart. So one of the first things I was thinking about was like this combined with I guess I don't have as much as I thought I did. With some of this paddock. This is paddock. So something along like that with a little bit of purple heart in it. These are kind of the components that I was thinking about for at least the first test build. I just like this purple heart. The problem with purple heart, it doesn't it will lose the purple color and become more brown over time, which they say you can put it back in the sun and it should get more color back or heat or something like that. Amnio says, I don't need anything else really. It's nice to have the space for another items, but the spot for the portafilter. So holding these other stuff is not important, just the portafilter. So just like a little tiny portafilter holder, is that what we're talking about? Exactly. Oh, okay. All right. All right. So this initial spice that we had here, right? Starting off now, starting to mellow out a little bit. So we got big fanfare of spice. And now it's kind of like you start off with big fanfare at the beginning. Dun, 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 dun. And after you've got the hook, after you got them hooked, it's just kind of like now we're gonna transition to a little bit more mellowness. That's how I feel like we're going next. So just a holder. I feel like this is high. Well, I guess it's not too high because look at the way the handle comes down. Right? The handle. Maybe that's not too high. All right. That's what I need to know. Wants to know, Rusty, have you seen the drones? Is it real? Yeah, man, it's totally real. It's like we're being invaded. Aliens will be landing soon. For that, like for the portafilter stand, are you thinking more square-ish or roundish? So yeah, really nice, and it's burning well. Everything about it is really good, like very, very good. I've seen both. I would go with whatever is easier to make. But I mean, aesthetically speaking, what do you think is nicer? At this moment, in my experience, the level of difficulty is all the same. Since I don't know what I'm doing, that's all the same for me. It's like, okay, well, just got to figure it out. Rusty says, oh, yeah. When I go to bed, my window's open and I can see them flying in the sky. Wow, really? They're still flying? Like now? They're just flying? That's crazy, man. One of my friends said that how is it possible that that they don't know who they are or what they are? It's probably the government, probably somebody, got some kind of smart, like dirty bomb or something, and they're desperately trying to find it by sweeping. I was like, oh, that sounds possible. Neil says, I think if it's wood, I would go square. Oh, all right. Square, square. Very nice. Hmm. One of our viewers was like, if you can make it a hinoki, I'll buy it. He's like, evidently he buys everything in hinoki. And I was like, oh. But I was actually looking online. I was looking online at some of the the lumber yards nearby, and it's like I don't know if anybody has hinoki here. All right, I feel like I'm enjoying it. I feel like I want to suck on it harder and go faster, but I have to be deliberate and like not. But I also, but part of it, I feel like it's a little bit soft right now. Feels a little bit soft, and I'm kind of concerned that if I go harder, it'll start to degrade the experience. Amiel says that the government must know. I mean about the drones. Oh, yeah, they must know. They have to know. I think I think Joe is not telling us the truth. Hmm. I also felt that no one there that perhaps we're starting to lose combustion. Yeah, right now I'm at this point where I feel like it could be losing combustion, so I want to puff on it harder. But I'm also feeling like if I puff on it harder, it's gonna start to degrade the smoking experience, right? The flavors could get a little bit more. It's kind of hinting as I'm puffing on it at the moment, in those last couple of puffs where I'm puffing harder, that it's starting to like get a little bit harsher. So I want to be a little bit careful of doing that. It's feeling a little bit soft down here, right by my thumb. My thumb is right there. I am going kind of fast, so let me slow down. Put it down for a minute. Yeah, as far as this burning stuff, this yakisugi, I have no idea what I would do with it. Maybe like make a box and then burn it. Okay, yo, what country are you from? I am from America. America, baby. Hello from Serbia. Oh, hello. Welcome to the live stream. We do this every Thursday night. Well, Thursday night here. I guess it's Thursday night in Serbia too. Much later in the evening for you guys. But we're here and we do cigars every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern time in the United States. So come and join us, man. Okay, Yo says, I love America. We love it too, man. We love it too. We love you as well, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. If you're smoking a cigar, let us know what you're smoking. Or what let us know if you're not smoking a cigar at the moment, what do you enjoy? Let us know that too. If you do smoke cigars. One thing I'm curious to know since okay, Yo, since you're here, are you into coffee? And what kind of coffee is popular in Serbia, right? So forgive me if I make presumptions here, but I'm just wondering, like, do you follow that Armenian Turkish style of coffee where you're putting it into the chezve and then cooking the coffee in the water there, or is there a different style of coffee brewing that's happening in your country? So we are. It's it's different. It's changed, right? So we had this first part here, beautiful spice, complexity, fanfare, and then it kind of changed, got a little bit mellower, and then right now I feel like we're struggling. I feel like we're struggling to remain lit and to remain pretty because right now the flavors just kind of like dropped, kind of dropped off and just become very kind of like. Brian says, please say Mr. Coffee. Maybe there's a different word for Mr. in Serbia. And what's the weather like there? I believe that it is probably cold. Okay, it says that Turksa Kafa is my favorite. Oh, okay. So I'm presuming that Turksa Kafa is Serbian for Turkish style of kafa. Turksa being Turkish and kafa meaning coffee. That's going to be my guess. That's my guess. And Okayo says it is a little bit cold right now. Actually, we're going to do Turkish coffee tomorrow on the live stream. We'll do some Turkish style coffee So that could be kind of fun. Amyel says, have you been to one of those jazz coffee shops in Japan? I'm talking about one that a DJ plays live vinyl. Yes, yes, I have. Actually, I went to one and the coffee master was way pissed off at me. I haven't released a video on it. It's in the Shibuya area. It's a place called Meikyoku Kissa Lion. And it's this old, like it's one of the ultimate classic jazz kissas in Tokyo. And you go in there and it's got this wall of like sound. You're just like, holy God. And it's one of those places where like it's a paean to the, oh, actually it's not jazz, I'm sorry. Meikyoku Kissa Lion is actually classical music. Their whole thing is classical, so I'm sorry, I totally misspoke on that. There is another place I've been to over, also in Shibuya, a few blocks away from there. What is the name? It's on the same street as my favorite tonkatsu place and this izakaya that I like to go to. It's kind of next door to the izakaya, and I don't remember the name of it offhand at the moment, but that place, actually, let me see if I can pull it up on my maps. But like, let's say this Meikuku Kissa Lion, it's like this wall of like speakers. And if you want to look it up, it's called, just put Kissa, Kissa Lion in Google, and I'm sure it'll pull it up. But I'm sitting, so they arrange all the chairs and tables so that they all face towards the wall of music. And and one of the guys will sit there and he'll change the records and put on another record. And it's pretty cool. When you order coffee, you sit down and it's silence, right? There's no talking, there's just honoring the music. So I'm sitting there with my camera. I'm just recording myself, right? Drinking coffee. And I think the master was just getting way pissed off. Like I asked when I walked in, I said, "Is it all right?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay." And so I was there and I was only shooting myself. But after like maybe 10, 15 minutes of me sitting there, I think he just got mad and was just like, "You have to stop." And I was like, "Oh, okay. No problem. I'll stop. No big deal." Rusty says, "Oh, that reminds me, I have to say hi to tour guy." Oh, yes, tour guy. We have to say hello to him. Okay, he says, "Yes, it's from Turkey." Ah, okay, great, 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 great. Neil says, "I want to experience one." You should definitely go, man. There's so many wonderful, wonderful places to go check out in Tokyo. Like there, I have this whole like list of what I do is I have these Google Maps, right? And I put pins on the place that I've been to. And then whenever I hear about a place I want to go to, I put another pin. And like the pins where places I've been to are blue. Here, I'll show you. Like here, you can kind of see it here. They're blue, right? But the green ones are the places that I haven't been to. And I'm like, now the green have eclipsed the amount of blue. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know if I can ever finally get to all the places that I would like to go check out. But let me see, the place that I was thinking about, um, oh, Cafe Mame Hiko. So Cafe Mame, Mame, and Hiko, Hico, Mame Hiko. That's a place where you go in and it's like all jazz, and you go there and they have like a minimum, and the minimum's kind of expensive. Like I went there after a certain time, and the minimum I think was like $15. Like, oh, $15, $15 for a coffee. But I was like, I got to check it out. So I'm going to. And then the last time I went there, actually, there's a video on the channel. If you look under the main channel, under the what is it? Under the Tokyo series, there's a place that I went to that my friend came to join me. Like this place. This place is in Ginza, super hardcore. Like they're like hardcore. Like I was like, oh my, should I even be here? Like, are we even welcome? And it's called, here it is, Cafe Bechet. It's named after the jazz trumpeter, Sidney Bechet. And the owner who started was a big fan of Bechet. Oh no, it was started by someone else, and it No, it was called Cafe. What was it called? It was called something else first, and then now it's called Cafe Boucher, and it's kind of an homage to Boucher. And this place is also it doesn't. It's not like Kiss a Lion where everything's facing the music, but there's a big bar. It's only a little bit of seating, maybe like seating for 13 people at the most, maybe 18 at the most. It's really small, but they're super hardcore. Like they're like, sit down, order your coffee, and shut the hell up. Like don't talk. There's no talking. Like they don't want you to talk. They're like super hardcore. It's like whoa. Like when I got there, the girl was like, "There's no talking here," and I was like, "Okay, no problem. I'm by myself, so that's fine." And then when my friend Naoko came, she's telling her in Japanese, "There's no talking here." It's like, oh, they're really interesting places. Like it's so interesting. The thing interesting about Japan's coffee scene is that there's enough of a following or enough interest for these different kissatens to have very different, very niche kind of like experiences that people are very much like loyal to. So these are kind of places where if you're a lover of jazz or if you're a lover of classical, you can go and sit down and just have coffee and enjoy the music. And how this all started, how did these jazz kisses begin? Is after World War II, when the Japanese were defeated by the United States, um, Japan's economics were kind of like in ruin at the time. And the occupational government came in and they were trying. So how all of these things started, this is what they call the Showa era. And the Showa era ran from like the 1920s until 1985, I think it was. And the eras of Japan are marked kind of like in the United Kingdom, right there. If you were to think of eras in the world of the United Kingdom, there would be the Elizabethan. Well, I guess they do that, right? They did the Queen Anne era, the King George era. Now we had lived through the Elizabethan era, and now we're in the Charles era. So same thing in Japan. So the Showa era was back then, and when that emperor died in 1985 is when the next, I think it's called, no, I think now we're in Heisei, the current emperor. There was another emperor between the current emperor and the other one. Go Fums with us. What's going on, man? How about them Ravens? Yeah, man. So kind of exciting. How are things down in Houston? Oh, not in Houston, right? So these places started, and oh, the reason that they started like this with music being a central part of it, because most Japanese at the time couldn't afford records. They couldn't afford the phonographs or the records. So these shop owners would start these places so that lovers of those musics could have a place to congregate and enjoy the music. And that's kind of the genesis of these type of cafes there. Ah, New York, sorry, man. So it's close enough. Yeah, it's close enough. How's the married life? Is it good? Oh, look at that. It's burning a little bit weird now. Wait, since we had that initial part of in the this first third, we had really great experiences in that first part of the first third. But since then, it's been a bit of a struggle. Nah, I hear you. I hear you. George says that New York is like that with certain music scenes. Birdland in New York City has hosted great jazz greats over the years. I saw Michael Coltrane, John Coltrane's son. Oh man, that sounds like a wonderful time. Here's the interesting thing. Here in Baltimore, we actually have a really great history of jazz too. Like there's a new jazz club it's called what's it called? The Blue Note? Not the Blue Note. There's a jazz club downtown that I haven't been to yet because I haven't gone out to listen to jazz in such a long time. But we used to go out quite a bit to like we get together with Brian and his wife, and we would go to places like the the Sonesta Court, where they would have live jazz. And this is the days when you could have like cigars, and that was a great time, jazz and cigars. And then I remember years ago, like I always wanted to be a sophisticate, right? Especially when I was young. Like I always want, you're young, you're like 16, you're like, I want to be sophisticated, right? So I remember I took the girl that I was seeing back then, and we had a big date. We went out to we went out to a club, a place called Ethel's Place that was downtown next to the the Meyerhoff Symphony Hall. And back then, it was called Ethel's Place because it was owned by the famous jazz singer Ethel Ennis, who's actually from Baltimore. And so I remember one time it was me, my cousin Bernardo, this girl that I was, going out with, and I brought her down there. And we were trying to be sophisticated, right? And we got tickets to go see Wynton Marsalis, and this was like at Wynton's like zenith of popularity, right? Like we're at this small like club, this dining room, watching Wynton Marsalis play, and and it, we're way underage, right? And they're like, "Would you like something to drink?" Like, how about some white wine? And they served us, and I was like, "Wow, it's like this is fantastic." Like if I look back, we looked way underage, but they were like, "All right, it's all good, it's all good." These young bucks, man, want to listen to jazz with Wynton. Gotta let them drink. Yeah, I'm struggling to keep it lit. Actually, I'm gonna hit it with the torch to light it up a little bit more. Golf says it's sorry, it sucks you can't smoke stage stogies in them. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. I do remember like when I was still new to cigars, like 1993, 94. My friends and I, when I was still living in Hawaii, there used to be there is a hotel still on Waikiki Beach called the Halekulani. And they have a lounge in there called the Lures Lounge, where they would have live jazz. And we used to go there, and we would like smoke cigars, have some drinks, have a little bit of like food, listen to the jazz, and just really have a wonderful time. And I remember early on, like one of the first times we went there, the F&B director came out and he was like, "Hey," he introduced himself to us. And he's like, "I just want you to know you guys are more than welcome to be here." And it's like, whatever we can do to make your stay better, let us know. And I was like, we were like, "What?" All right. And this is what we want to hear. So really, really a nice time back then. And then we used to go to a place called, every once in a while we go down, there's a place there's a neighborhood here called not Northridge. Maybe just called Northridge. There was a club, jazz club there. I don't know if it's still there or not, but we used to go there every once in a while. A place called the New Haven Lounge, another jazz club, and like go there and be live jazz. It was really good times, man. Little bit of a rough neighborhood. Like the neighborhood is a bit sketch, right? Like it's like you got you park the car and you're walking into the club, and like there's a packaged goods store. There's some yo boys hanging outside, and you're like, are they going to step to us? Like, are we going to have to worry about anything? But you know what? No one ever bothered us. Nobody ever stepped to us or ever gave us any kind of attitude. It was always very nice. George says that my brother's a jazz lover and drug me to a jazz club, to any jazz club in the local area, Baltimore, DC. Really underrated. Yeah, I think it's really underrated here, man. Like, actually, one of my good friends who lives down in Gaithersburg, he was, he's always played music and he's kind of into jazz, but his daughter is like in a quartet, like a jazz quartet. She's a saxophonist. She's like really amazing. I was like, wow. I would like to. I keep telling him I need to know. I actually need to call and be like, hey man, when are they playing out again? I'd like to go and catch a show. But there is a club now, like I said, in the city, down at the Harbor East area, and they from what I've seen some of their schedule, they have some really good acts that come through. It's like that would be dope to go check it out. Coming from the era when you could smoke cigars in the jazz club, now we can't. It's a little bit. It doesn't feel as dirty, right? It doesn't feel as like down and deep in it. Mm. Okay, now we're back. Now it's back. It's come back to life. It's not spicy, but it's getting that nice flavor back. It's got a good complexity flavor. But one thing I have to do, it's getting a little bit kind of heavy. So I'm gonna pop the blast doors open. Get them blast doors open, and the fan rolling. Blow it out for a few minutes. I can't really see if it's still snowing at the moment. Of course, where I'm sitting, the fan is like blowing right across my head. Let us move over. Slightly better. I don't know. So if you guys go out to, in the old days when you go out and smoke, did you guys go to clubs and any kind of music? I don't know if there were other clubs you could smoke at. Well, I guess you could smoke at any of the clubs back in the day, right? And even though I enjoy cigars and enjoy going out to these places to have a cigar and listen to music, and one thing I got to say that from my club days and going out days that I don't really miss is like I remember coming back from the club, and we used to go to the club like every weekend, all night long. And you come back and you just reek of cigarette smoke, like reeking of cigarette smoke. I don't miss that. I'm happy that we don't have that anymore. Like I'm happy to go out now and not smell like cigarettes. Rusty says Amy was at the Halekulani last night for drinks with members of her nonprofit. Oh, Halekulani is such a great place. They just finished, and she's in the red eye to eat to Newark as we speak. Oh, I saw that she was out there. I saw she was giving she was singing at someone's house, and that house looked pretty dope. I was like, whoa, that's a dope looking house. And yes, I wonder about the way. Good, good. You're a good husband. You're a good husband. So yeah, it's coming back. It's coming back. We had that little bit of foulness. So it's like the cigars is trying to rally. But I think we're finished with the first third. So I'm gonna have to go. We're gonna have to go there. I would say the body is kind of a nice medium body. Qualitatively, I'm gonna say 8.5. So very good plus. I would have said maybe 8.75 had it had the first third continued the way that it started. So it started off super strong and then got interesting as it like I said, had the fanfare and then it kind of like went into the next movement, but then it kind of like so I think just very good, just 8 instead of like I would have given like 8.75 otherwise. Yeah, the Halekulani is definitely one of my favorite hotels. Like I remember, so when you're living in Hawaii, they give you what's called the Kama'aina rate, the resident rate, which back in the day was really good, right? Like it would be half off. And I always wanted to stay at the Halekulani, but the Halekulani back then was like $450 a night or something like that. I was like, man. So one time, I had this one girlfriend. So I brought her to the Halekulani. We stayed there one night, had a great time. $225, which was a lot of money back then, 1996. I was like, holy crap, there's a lot of money. And it was awesome, awesome place to stay. And now, as I got older and did my own thing, the rate is now like $600, or had been $600 a night. So it's like $300 a night is possible, right? That's you go for a special time with a special woman. Okay, $300. All right, let's do that. Let's do that. Half price would be fine. But now the Kama'aina rate has been slashed to like sometimes 15%, 20% off. You're like, what? It's still 400 night. Hell no, I'm not going to stay there. I'm too cheap for that, man. Like, I'm always looking for the $100 deal or less. Give me less than $100, which, depending on where you are in the world, can be quite a disaster waiting to happen. Like, one time I was going to London, right? I was going to London. I called up my cousin who lives outside of London. Actually, he's my cousin-in-law. He married my real cousin, right? So I called him up. I said, "Hey, man, I'm coming to town. Let's all get together." He's like, because I'm the older one, right? So I'm the older one. So there's like a level of respect there. So he was like, "If you're coming to town, let me get you a hotel." I was like, "Dude, you don't have to get me a hotel. Nobody, dude, just come out." They live about an hour outside they live about an hour outside of central London. So I was like, just come down. Let's hang out. Don't pay for anything. He said, "No, I'm going to pay. I'm going to buy you a hotel." I was like, "Oh, fine. So he gets me this hotel in Earl's Court. Gives me the address. I go to this place. Man, talk about a drug den of a hotel. Like, this place was a drug den. It cost 90 quid a night, so about 100 US dollars. I go to the room, and it is really like a drug. Like, you feel like it's dirty, it's dingy, it's like stained. It's like it's as bad as you would think, right? And I was like, oh my God, man. Like, I was actually scared to sleep. Like, I've slept in some pretty crazy places, but this place, I was like, I don't even know if it's safe to be here. Like, so he was on the way into town when I got there. So but I figured, you know what? He paid for the room. I'll do one night. I'll tough it out. I'm only there for 2 nights, so it'll be fine. He gets there and he's mortified. Like, he is like horrified at like what he sees. Like, he's like, oh my God. And he bought 2 rooms, one for himself, one for me. So he's in it for 200 quid almost, right? So after he checks in and goes to his room, he's like, oh, you can't stay here. I was like, no. I said, dude, don't worry about it, man. We'll just do it all good, man. All good, right? I don't want to be embarrassed. I'm just fine. I can do one night. He's like, but he's still embarrassed. He's like, I have to get you to the place. So he finds another hotel. Now, they won't give us a refund, right? They won't refund the money. I mean, it's a pretty crappy joint. And he finds another hotel that's like a block away in the same neighborhood. Like, if you look at this place, it's one of those houses that are like, it's a building that's like white with columns. Like, it looks like a nice place, but it's a pit. Like, it's a total pit. But he gets this other place, the King George. I think it's called the King George, whatever it was, man. He got this other place. And this place is 250 quid a night. So it's like $300, $325. And it's nice. Like, we get there, I'm like, oh, this is some dope. This is a dope place. Like, this is a place I was like, oh yeah, I could live in this mother, right? But he's like, I'm gonna have to go home. It's like, I just stay with me. He's like, no problem. He's like, no. He's all embarrassed. He's all super embarrassed. He's like, I'm just gonna go home. And I was like, no, let's go out and have some. So we go out, right? So we go to. I'm like, let's go have a cigar. He's not really a cigar person. But I was like, let's go have a cigar. So I find a cigar lounge in Kensington, just in front of Kensington Palace, right on Kensington Drive. It's a place called the Wellesley. Really nice, posh kind of hotel. But they've got a cigar lounge, a really nice, posh cigar lounge. So we go there. And we're greeted by the maitre d', and he's like, hello, blah, 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 blah. And he said, are you guests here? I said, no, we just came to have a cigar. And he's like, there is a little bit of a minimum. And I was like, that's fine, no problem. But I was like, well, I didn't want to ask, right? Because it's kind of crass to ask what's the minimum. But it turns out the minimum was like, I think the minimum was like 75 quid. And I was like, per person. And I was like, holy shit, I'm in for 150 quid already. I just wanted to go have a cigar. I would have sat outside. I was, on the bench and being perfectly happy. And I was going to say, oh, maybe we should go somewhere. I was going to say, maybe we should go find somewhere else. But then I was like, but then now I'm embarrassed because here's my cousin who's already put out 450 quid. He's put in like 500 quid for me to stay at some places, right? So am I going to sit there for 150 quid and like, quibble about that? I was like, I'm embarrassed. I'm like, I can't. All right, let's have a cigar and let's have some drinks and just forget about the. Oh, but if you go there, the Wellesley is actually really beautiful bar, nice selection of Cuban cigars, and they have a little kind of outdoor court area where that's kind of heated with that's covered, meaning that it's kind of like sheltered from the street. Even though it's on the street side, it's got like big shrubberies that cover everything, like a whole hedge, right? George says that my buddy played it cheap in Rome with his then girlfriend, now wife. Got a cheap hotel. They got scabies. Oh God, man, that's terrible. Cheap hotels and yeah, well, here's the thing. So it's like if you go to like New York City and you get a hotel room for under $100, man, you are like, it's just like scary. London, scary. But what I found with Tokyo is that I have always been able to get a room in Tokyo, central Tokyo, really well located, close to a train station, nice places, always under $100, usually like 85, sometimes 75. One time was $65. New hotels, tiny rooms, they're small rooms, right? Like if it's you and one other person, that's probably good. Like even just by myself, like I got two suitcases and two carry-ons, and like I've got to play a little bit of room Jenga when I come back to the room because you got to pack everything away. It's kind of, but it's a nice, clean hotel. And I'm always like, why can't we have nice things like this in other parts of the world? Like all these like big cities, like and Tokyo is the biggest city in the world. But these other big cities, London, New York, man, you spend anything less than like 300, 400, $500 a night, you're staying in poverty. It's terrible. Rashi said, if you ever heard of the Turtle Bay Resort on the North Shore, it was it was a sister property of a place I used to work at. Oh yeah, of course, absolutely. It used to be a Hilton many years ago. I don't know if it was still a Hilton now or not. Stayed 3 nights there with the family for $39. Oh, see, that's beautiful, man. 2002. But I gotta say, I think that, and I don't know how it was when you were there in 2002, but I remember back in the 90s, even back in the 90s, the Turtle Bay Hilton had been there for quite a long time. And even back then, it was starting to look a little bit long in the tooth, just a little bit. When I was in Hawaii 2 years ago, I went to Kona on the Big Island, and I stayed at the Kona Surf Hotel, which is now a Outrigger property, but before it used to be the Sheraton. And that's a place that's kind of in the need of like renovation because the furniture, the fixtures, and everything was the same, the same old like 1970s rattan like that I had stayed. We stayed there. I stayed with my family like the mid 80s when we first went to Hawaii, and it's still pretty much the same. But I think they were starting to renovate it when I was there last. Amiel says, "Are the dates for the SPCA expos announced?" Yes, they are announced. They're in April. Let's see, when is it? April. April 25th. April 25 to April 27th. I have I'm gonna close the blast doors. Because the smoke has been mostly abated, and I think it's also the cold is starting to affect my cigar. It's starting to cause cracking, right, like that. So Amiel, if you're gonna go, this is what Hoon told me. So if you guys don't know Hoon, Hoon owns a coffee channel called Hoon's Coffee. It's got about 250,000 subscribers. But he was telling me last year, he was like, "Yeah, man, just get the press pass. You've got a channel. Why don't you use a press pass?" Because I would always call friends. Because I think personally speaking, for a trade show, I think the SCA Expo is a poor value. Like you spend a lot of money to attend, and I mean it's good. It's the only trade show worth going to in America, so it's probably worth it. But which would cost a lot of money. Now, if I was doing something like judging or something, they would give me a 3-day pass for the whole show. But if I didn't do that, which I don't like to do that when I go there, because I'm there to work. I'm not there to like work for them. And so what I would do is I would actually call up friends in the business and be like, "Hey, man, do you guys have extra passes?" Because vendors at the show would get some passes, and they would get 2-day passes for people they want to attend the show. So I would call up a couple people and be like, "Hey, man, you got a pass? You got a pass? You got a pass?" I'd get 2 different passes, and then I'd stagger the days and then go. But here's the thing, Amniel, you've got a channel. Sign up for the press pass. That's what I did. That's what I did last week. I signed up for the press pass. I haven't got it yet. Yeah, 900 subs. 900 subs. You can't put 900 people in your house. You can't even put them in most venues. 900 people is still a lot. And you know what? Here's the thing. You can apply for it, and they can say no. And if they say no, they say no. But at least apply for it. And it's free from what the guys have told me. So you get a free pass. No, see, the cigar's going out again. God, it's pretty much out. Oh man, what a shame. We had that few moments of like returning to life. But you go to the website, the SCA Expo, what is it called? At coffeeexpo.org. And let's see, what does it say here? If you go to coffeeexpo.org, there is attend, register. Maybe it's under register. Yeah, there's a press registration. So you just fill that out, and then I guess they'll send it to. I haven't received any kind of confirmation or anything yet, but I only sent it last week. So yeah, nothing to lose, man. Nothing to lose. I think you should do it. And yeah, because you know what? Here's the thing. So like, you're gonna go, whether you pay or you get a press pass. You're making videos about that are actually helping to promote the expo and the Specialty Coffee Association. So it's to their benefit for you to make videos to help promote their cause. It doesn't really cost them anything to give you a press pass. Plus, the one nice thing if you get a press pass, this is what they were telling me, is that there's a press lounge. So you can go use the lounge and hang out and print stuff or whatever people do in a press room. Like, I've never done it. This will be the first time that I've applied for it. And also the thing is that even though you've only got like 900 subscribers, you actually have content. You've actually made real content that's on the channel. So it's not like you're just kind of like conjuring it up just to go to the show and like be a gawker. You've actually done real work. So I say definitely. Plus, I think Houston will be kind of fun. There's a great cigar lounge there called Stogie's World Famous Cigar. Anytime I was in Houston before, I would go there. So now that we got relit, it's starting to feel a little bit heavier. Maybe I'm inhaling too much smoke. I don't know what it is. I don't know about you guys, but like my cigar consumption has plummeted. Like I haven't smoked a cigar since last week's show. This is the first cigar since I've had since last Thursday. I don't know what's going on. Just kind of like it's maybe because it's cold. But I think it'll be fun. This year, I think it should be fun. Houston, I think it's fun. I'm thinking about going to Houston, and then then there's another show I have to go to. I normally go to this other show called the NAB show. When is NAB this year? Oh God, Usually NAB and SCA are back to back. So for the last couple of years, I've been going to SCA first, and then from wherever the SCA was, like from Boston. I think the year before was Boston. I go to Boston, no, Portland. I would go from Portland. Oh, they were right behind. They were always back to back. So I think the first year I went to NAB, NAB was the weekend before. So I went to Vegas first, and then I went to uh, to Portland. And then last year it was after, immediately after. So after Chicago, I flew directly to to Vegas for the NAB. And the NAB, if you're not familiar with that, Omniel is NAB is the National Association of Broadcasters, and it is a like if you have an interest in video production equipment for doing the YouTube stuff, it's got pretty much everything there. Like it is the one show to go to for equipment, and it's like not just YouTubers; it is the entirety of video and basically video, television, and motion picture production, and not as heavily in the motion picture side of things. Like you have to go to other things like Cinegear Expo for the heavier duty motion picture stuff. But there's a lot. But there's a lot for the YouTuber to see at NAB, and there's whole worlds at NAB that I don't even like. There's one hall is mostly transmission, right? The actual technical broadcast side of broadcast. Like here, are the guys that are selling like radio towers and like transmitting. Yeah, I don't even know what they're selling. Microwave technology. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't understand any of it. Like, but it's good. Like last year when I was there, the guys from SMPTE, the Society of Motion Picture Television Engineers, had a setup there. They brought some of the items from their SMPTE museum, and I was talking to the guys, and I was like, you know what, man, what is up with the whole like 2997 thing, right? So if you're not familiar, right, um, with most people that know a little bit about this knows that video television typically runs at a frame rate or field rate. Technically, it's field, not frames, but a field rate of 30 frames per second. But it's actually, in true technical terms, it's 29.97 frames per second. And what that means is that in the old days of CRTs, the cathode ray tubes, how the cathode ray tubes was that, remember the cathode ray tubes, they have this big tube, this big screen, and it kind of had this conical shape with this raster in the back. And what actually was happening with your television is that this raster would shoot out not a laser beam, but like an electronic signal, and it would scroll and then come back. Scroll, 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 scroll. 480 lines of resolution. Right? 400, yeah, 480. And it would do this pass once, one frame, boom, two frames. The way that it worked is that it actually did 29.97 frames or fields per second. And that's where that came up with. Now, motion picture technology was always, for 35 millimeter motion picture technology, it was 24 frames per second. So there was always this kind of imbalance. So when I was working in motion pictures and I was doing 24 frame playback, which means that role was a very technical role where basically if you were in the 90s or before that and you would see a television screen or any kind of CRT screen on screen, right? Like the actors are interacting with the screen itself and you can see the screen, you can see the television screen in the frame of the movie, in the motion picture frame. There's a natural, with 2997 or 2998 and 24, there's a natural disparity between the two. So remember, like you would see before, you'd see these like black bars scrolling. That's because the two were out of sync. And the idea behind 24 frame playback was that we would actually take specially modified televisions and playback devices, basically videotape recorders, and we would run them through a conformer that would actually sync the physical camera to the raster of the screen. So basically, as the frame exposed 24 times, this setup would conform that 2997 down to 24, so that as the frame opened on the film camera, the raster would fill that frame would on the screen that was in the shot, fill the frame, and so you wouldn't get the rolling bars. And so so I was asking because now in the YouTube world, you see all these guys talking about, frame rates, 2997, 20, whatever the, and I'm like, why are they, we're in a totally digital format now that is 30, or actually I shoot all 24. I shoot 24 frames per second at 50p. So it gets that filmic look, right? If you can shoot 30 frames at 60p and get a more video style look, or you can shoot faster frame rates to get that really kind of high res, that unnatural looking high res stuff. But I was talking to the Cinti guys. I was like, why do we use it? He's like, because people are stupid. It's like, because people don't realize that you don't need to set your frame rates at 2997 because we're not in the broadcast world anymore. We're not in that old school analog setup. We're all digital. So just a thought. I don't know why that's just a little tangent to go off on. Rusty says if I go to SCA this year, it's all on my dime. Ralph isn't going to Houston. Unless I can work the HCA booth, I can get a pass, but airfare and hotel is all in. Oh, gotcha. Well, if you go, man, why don't you also go and register the press pass and use my channel? And just tell them, you're the cameraman. All they can do is say no. Right? That's what they can do. Say no. Yeah, I haven't really started thinking about, like I finally, who was it? I think it was Hoon, or maybe it was you, Umnil, that asked me about that before, and I was like, oh, I better register. So that's why I registered for the press pass, but I haven't really thought about hotels or anything like that. I should start working on that soon. April will be here very, very quickly, and then NAB is Saturday, April 5th to Wednesday, April 9th. But even though it says starts on Saturday, really the actual show doesn't start until Monday. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, if you want to go. And here's the great thing about the NAB, right? NAB, like a lot of industry types of shows, trade shows specifically, they you just register. There's no fee. You just register for a trade show, trade floor pass, and you get it, and you go, and it's interesting. I think it's very interesting. In fact, most of the trade shows that I will attend have complimentary admission. Like when I went to Pack Expo, which is all about packaging. It was in Philadelphia last March, I think it was. Again, free registration. I went to Wood Pro Expo in Lancaster, like in October, free registration. Trade shows want attendees. They want as much attendees as they can because they're making their money off of the vendors, for their booth fees, showing fees, as well as if you do the workshops, then you pay for the workshops. So Amniel says the problem is time off work. I understand. I totally understand. For me, I'm looking at woodworking. I'm looking for woodworking shows. I'm like, there's none this year. It's like, that's terrible. There's one in Vegas, I think, in July. And I was like, oh God, Vegas in July, that's terrible. But now one of my cousins is moving to Vegas in April or May. She lives in San Antonio now. She's always like, anytime you want to come stay, just come stay with us. I was like, all right. So now they're gonna be in Vegas. So I could probably go there and get free lodging in Vegas. The only problem with staying at relatives' houses or friends' houses that, you don't want to roll in at 3, 4 in the morning. It's like, but I'm disappointed she's moved because she was living in San Antonio, and the Sporting Clays, the Sporting Clays Nationals are held in October in San Antonio, and And it's really difficult. It's difficult to get a place to stay, evidently, down there during that show, during that event. So I've been for the last 2 years I've been talking about going, and I just haven't gone. And I was planning to go this year, and then my cousin was like, "We're moving." And I was like, "Oh no, that's no good." So the cigar is good, very good, but not. Hmm. Rusty says, I also just found out that in March there is a New York Jersey Coffee Festival. Oh, where is that being held? Let's see. New Jersey. Maybe I'll come for that. Coffee Festival. You know what I miss, man, Rusty, is that I miss the Star Chefs conference. Like, I called Antoinette last year and I was like, Antoinette, she's the one that ran it. And I was like, Antoinette, are you doing this anymore? She's like, no. It's like, after the pandemic came, they lost, I guess they lost all their momentum. But that was the only time I really wanted to go to New York. I was like, oh, Star Chefs, I'll go to that. Because it was, what I liked about Star Chefs was that it was a show that was really outside my box. Like, I was like, I got to swim in this mother. Like, I got to really swim amongst these guys because these are like the best people in the business. Like that. All right, New Jersey Coffee Festival. Join us at the New Jersey Coffee Festival for the ultimate. Oh, where to go? For the ultimate coffee experience at the Belvoir. Oh, in Homedale. Man, I spent a lot of time in Homedale, New Jersey. One of my great friends, Gary, is from Homedale, so we used to hang out there quite a lot. Okay. Too bad he doesn't live there anymore. I could stay at his house. Let's see what the tickets are. Oh, it's one day, March 22nd from 10 to 4. Oh, one day. Okay. The only problem with Homedale, like for this event, is that Teaneck is kind of far. Like if I was to come to New Jersey, it would seem like a shame to go to New Jersey to Homedale and not go to Teaneck to get some bagels. Saturday, March 22nd, 11 a.m. starts. VIP ticket holders get in at 10. Do I want to be there an hour early? What's happening in this place? Okay, let's see what's bring 40 coffee, tea, and food vendors. There's a brew school. There's coffee conversations, coffee house vibes. I imagine that this coffee festival is like the ones I've been to in the past. I've only been to the one in Sao Paulo when we were I was judging a competition they were holding at the one in Sao Paulo a few years back. It was a lot of fun, but I was working, so it was fun for me. But I don't know. I don't know if I would like. I wonder if I would enjoy going to a coffee festival where I have to wait in line to get coffee. So VIP has everything in the general admission, which is access to the festival, 30 plus coffee and food vendors, coffee and tea for sample and purchase, food for purchase, entry to the brew school and coffee conversations with acoustic live music for only $25. Not bad. So for $55, you get early access, you get reserved seating for brew school and coffee conversations, the VIP lounge with complimentary water and snacks, and then you get complimentary coffee inspired cocktail. Nice. And then a VIP swag bag that includes a commemorative tumbler. All right, nice. Amiel says, all right, boys, I got to go to sleep. Got to get up at 4:30. Oh, my gosh, man. Well, thank you, Amiel. Good to see you, man. Glad you're with us. Hope you have a good night as well. Oh, that might be fun. That might be fun. Let me see. I'll have to see if I have anything scheduled conflict-wise for that weekend. I should also see when Pack Expo is. Pack Expo. Oh, Pack Expo. Oh, Pack Expo is only a biennial event, so it won't come back around until 2026, February. Oh yeah, Star Chef, man. Star Chefs. I went to Star Chefs for most of the years that they had it because they always had great chefs like presenting that I always wanted to like, hear from. I remember one of my favorites was Juan Marie Arzak from San Sebastian. He came and did a demo and it's like, wow, it's really amazing, amazing stuff. But they had so many people, Jose Andres, Thomas Keller, Grant Achatz, Eric Zebold. I mean, just a lot of great talent, great talents. Star Shift needs to come back along with me. Yeah, the main was definitely, and those of you who might be familiar, the main is something called the Mid-Atlantic Northeast Coffee Conference. Yeah, Coffee Conference. I was an instructor there for I think all the years that they did it. And what I liked about that is that it was really a small show, or it's not a show, but more like a gathering of coffee people, coffee professionals. It was about education and sharing. I thought that was really, really special. I like that. I like that event. I like that coffee event more than any other one that I've been to ever. Which is also like in the YouTube world. A couple years back, I wanted to go to some of the YouTube conferences that they have. So I found one that was in Albany. Albany? I think Albany. Really tiny show. Like everyone could stay in one little hotel and everybody could fit, like maybe there was like maybe 75 attendees, but they had these YouTube creators that were really kind of well known. And what I thought was really great about that show and the main expo was that it was really just about access, right? Like everybody, it was so small that everyone would just be hanging out in the hotel lobby. And then eventually I went to another show called Vid Summit, Video Summit. For YouTubers, that's like the big, like insider show to go to. And it's really big. I went to the one in LA in 2022. And that was really good, right? It's like the one to go to, the one to be seen at. But I never went back because I was like, well, it is more expensive. Like they price it so that you have to be serious to go. But it's such a big event that like you don't really get to like interact with people. So it's like, plus I like the NAB better because like a lot of the YouTubers that I know personally also go to that show. So we'll actually interact and hang out a little bit and talk and get to know each other. And so I like that one a little bit better. Even though NAB is the way larger by population wise than any other shows that I've been to. This cigar has lasted the entire time. Like, look at this. We're almost at 10 o'clock and we still have a ways to go, but it's burning kind of funky. This cigar has been up and down. Fantastic beginning. Just awesome. Like gangbusters at the beginning. But then it's kind of like it kind of dropped and then it kind of went out and then it threatened to go out and then it came back and then it went out and then it started to I will probably buy the Corona to see what that's like, and I'm hoping that's going to be a better. Maybe this is just like a one-off problem, but at $19, like I said at the beginning, if the way that it started, if this cigar was able to continue in the way that it began, wow, stellar. And I hate to say that because I know Arsenio personally. I have a vested interest in this being a great cigar, and I wish I could say that it was an amazing smoke, but it's just been so inconsistent, so up and down that I can't say that. Like I'm gonna have to say that the second, third, I'm gonna give it more static results. So basically 8 and 8.5. So how's your guys' cigars coming out? And George Shem, man, how are you doing outside? Like you said, you're on the balcony, so I presume that you're being covered and not getting snowed on. I can just imagine you though sitting there getting kind of coated with snow. Brian said he's going to bed. All right, Brian, man, have a good night. Thanks for tuning in. Good to see you. No, and I am puffing a little bit harder to try to keep the combustion going, which means that it's also gotten a little bit hotter. I wonder what everybody else said. Like I have a review here somewhere from Half Wheel. What does Half Wheel have to say? Now, Half Wheel, for their review, they did smoke the Corona. So I think they're going to have a bit of a different experience. Well, then again, they gave an overall score for their Corona of 86. But what do they say? They say on their 86 score, they say from the first puff, the Arsenio Corona seems destined to be a real treat for the senses, starting off with a profile rich in the pepper and spice that is signature of the company's blending style, something largely influenced by Arsenio. It has moments where it can be big and bold, and then moments where it's nuanced, layered, and complex, almost seeming like it is trying to show off its agility and ability to engage and stimulate the senses in any number of ways. I think this is true. Like I said, at the very beginning, in the very beginning of the first third, a lot of fanfare, a lot of spice, a lot of really interesting complexity, and then it kind of like, you know, it kind of like shifted gears into like, I wish I could think of the term in music that's appropriate, like fanfare, and then like, and the next movement, but a little bit more mellow, a little bit more like smoother, right? Through the first two-thirds of the cigar, there's little to take issue with and plenty to enjoy, including absolutely diving aroma wafting off the cigar while it's at rest. Unfortunately, the final third sees combustion issues arise, and while I'm not sure how much of a correlation there is to flavor change, the two come hand in hand. I'd like to think that giving these a bit more time to might help that final third improve, meaning I believe they mean that to give it some time, meaning to age a little bit and get on the level of the first two-thirds, which are stellar examples. I can't, and I wish I could say that I had the level of experience that they're describing in their first two-thirds, because really it was just like the first half of the first third that was like truly stellar, and then after that it was just kind of like ups and downs. Which, considering that this is the supposed to be the personal blend and definitely the namesake of Arsenio Ramos, I can only say that it's a little bit disappointing in that respect. Sadly, like I mean, I want to tell you that this is a. I wanted to say that this is an amazing smoke, but I mean, we've had combustion problems, burn issues. Like I don't know in Half Wheel's world where 86 falls in for them, but I was really hoping for like high 80s for this one. In our world, 86 would be, in our world, 86 would be along the lines of the Revenge. But I don't think we're there. I mean, I will find out in a few minutes when we finally do the scores, but let me see here what we have from the last couple weeks. I have the last couple weeks in here. I don't. Maybe I left it inside. Oh, here we go. Last week we had the Roma Craft 86 for the Maestranza, And I don't know where the one from Tatuaia went the week before. But even last week's cigar, the Maestranza from Roma, I really like that one. I really like that cigar quite a bit. Even though, like I said last week, it got 86, which is, if I remember correctly, was the score we gave to the Intemperance Revenge a couple of years ago. And to me, the Maestranzana was very much not highest scoring by any means, but I think very rewarding, very fulfilling, kind of very enjoyable smoke. Yeah, this is just kind of hot and not too descript. All right, let's see. I'm going to give it, I think we'll keep it at 8.85 again. Burn and draw, I think 7.5, just good plus. Consistency, 7.5. Overall, 7.5. Which gives us total score for this cigar of 80.5. Which I think is it's a little bit disappointing. Like I was hoping for a really great performance, and the first half of the first third really performed really highly. But sadly, man, it just didn't continue. So right about there. Oh well. Guess you can't have everything all the time. But I will give it a try again, or this time with the Corona, to see if we can get the flavor that we're hoping for. All right, well then, I guess that'll do it for this week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Always glad to see all of you. Thank you for hanging out on our Thursday night hang. Back again next Thursday night. It'll probably be bitterly cold as well. Hopefully not too crazy. So hope you guys have a wonderful week out there and enjoy. We're back again tomorrow with the coffee Q&A at 10 a.m. Eastern on the main channel. We're going to be doing the Turkish coffee tomorrow. So if you have the time, come join us. If not, back again next week. Hope you have a great one and see you next time.